This video is an explanation of the first assignment, which is an archive summary. The archive summary is 100 points, worth 10% of your grade for the class. Just a short description. Students will create a PowerPoint, Prezi, or other visual representation summarizing an archive in terms of its content and rhetorical contexts. In the next coming days, we will talk about rhetorical situations, rhetorical contexts. So that should be the next assignment, the next reading. What do we mean by rhetorical contexts? Don't worry, we're getting there. We'll talk about that soon enough. The video that you should be watching after this is what is an archive? Because you are probably asking yourself, what is an archive? Well, we will get to that in the next video. This video is solely devoted to the assignment sheet. So we will talk about what an archive is in the other video, and in the coming days you will read about rhetorical situations and rhetorical contexts. Okay, this video is just for the assignment sheet. So what is the purpose of this assignment? Well, the purpose is to explore and analyze an archive, and then to inform a general audience about the nature and purpose of the archive you have selected. You will not be evaluating an archive, so do not worry about passing judgment on the archive. Rather, you are just going to tell us what the archive is. The evaluation, the judgment of the archive, that's the next assignment. This is just a summary. Just tell us what is in the archive. What is the archive? What is in it? Okay? So here's an overview. For this assignment, you will first choose an archive from the attached list. On the D2L page, there is a PDF with a list of archives, approved archives, for this assignment. If you come across another archive that you're interested in, send it to me via email and I will take a look at it and I will approve it or not approve it. Okay? So first, choose an archive. Then you will spend time looking at the archive to get a good idea of what is contained in the collection, and to be familiar with how the archive works and with its presented materials. All right? As you spend time with the archive, you will start to ask yourself questions, and these questions will guide your summary. And here are some questions that you could ask yourself, like, what kinds of materials are contained within the archive? What is selected and what might have been left out of the archive? Archives, I'll just go ahead and I'll give you a brief summary. Archives are collections. Sometimes things might be left out, and that's something you can ask yourself. What is the method of collection of materials? What other methods do similar archives use to collect materials? Every archive, I've said, is a collection, and they have to decide on how they go about collecting their materials. What should go into the archive and what shouldn't go in the archive? What is their methodology? Why did they make this decision? What are the decisions? Okay. How are the materials arranged? Right? So there are things in the archive, there are things in this collection. How are they arranged for people to go about looking at them? Same thing applies here. How are the materials presented to potential researchers? Like, how do students like yourself or scholars, how are they encouraged to go through the archive? Essentially, how is it arranged? How is it accessible? Okay. Whose voices are present in the archive? For example, does the archive focus on women's voices, farmers' voices, survivors, a combination of so? Archives are collections, but they're not just collections of everything. They're collections of certain kinds of things. So who is represented in these archives? Okay, in the other video and on the approved list, there is an archive devoted to the Tulsa riots in the 1920s. So, I mean, it's pretty clear who the voices are in that archive. Black voices and Oklahoman voices, right? So that's a question you should ask yourself. Who is being represented in this archive? And maybe who isn't being represented in this archive? Just in the same way that what is in the archive and what isn't in the archive. Why was the archive created? All right, why is it there? That's a question you should be asking yourself. Was it created for a specific event? Is it an archive that was created because it needed to be created for potential research purposes? So on and so forth. What is the purpose of the archive? I mean, this is a really important question. What is the purpose of the archive? And does the archive achieve its purpose? Okay. Now, you shouldn't go too far with this portion of the question because that's really what an evaluation is for. And we don't do the evaluation until the next assignment. But it's something you should start kicking around in your head. Is the archive singular, or are there other similar archives? What differences are there between the selected archive and the others you find? So look at this archive and maybe think, what are some similar archives? If there is an archive for the Tulsa riot, maybe there are archives for not other Tulsa riots, but other riots similar in nature. I don't know, maybe the Rosewood riots. If you know what Rosewood is, it's a very similar event to the Tulsa riot. Or other archives dealing with Black experience in America. And also, who created the archive, and what can we discover about the funders or sponsors of the archives? So, your summary of an archive is essentially a who, what, when, where, why, and how. Okay? That's how you should think about it. You're telling us what it is, who created it, who is in it, where can we find it, when was it made, why was it made, and how is it made. Okay? On the assignment sheet, you will find evaluative criteria. This is how I'm going to grade you. Again, it's worth 100 points, and it's broken down into segments. So 25 points will go towards the ability to effectively summarize and describe the archive with appropriate detail, drawing upon conclusion or examples to help prove your points. Okay, 25 points will go to the ability to articulate and define the purpose, stance, and scope of your archive. 30 points will go to rhetorical analysis, in which you demonstrate a level of engagement with the archive and analysis of its content by incorporating your responses to selected inquiry questions based on the sources provided. And then clarity, like, is your information presented in a clear manner? Is your slideshow presentation error-proof, complete sentences, and so on and so forth. Now, this is a visual presentation. It's a slideshow. It's not your typical essay. So what is the length? Well, think about it this way. The amount of information that goes into the slideshow should be about 3 to 4 pages worth of information. I don't know how many slides that is. That could be 15, could be 20 slides, something of that nature. So think about it in the way that the amount of information that goes into your slideshow should be enough to fill 3 to 4 pages. Okay. There will be a peer review in which you will submit a rough draft of your presentation to the Dropbox. What I will do is I will then partner you up with somebody, and you will receive the rough draft in an email. You will then review that draft and then resubmit it to the Dropbox, and I will return it. Okay, so rough drafts will be due to the archive summary rough draft folder. I will email you with an assigned draft. Okay, you will then review the assigned drafts. And then submit the reviewed draft to the archive summary peer-reviewed folder. So you will submit your rough draft on Tuesday, September 12th, and you will return your reviewed draft on Thursday. So you'll have like 48 hours to look at your partner's rough draft, to give them feedback. And here are due dates, right? So important dates. On September 5th, you will have an archive proposal due to D2L. September 12th is when the rough draft is due. September 14th is when your reviewed draft will be returned. And then September 17th is when your final presentation is due. Now, you're probably asking, what about the archive proposal? Well, it's really simple. It's 20 points. It's fairly straightforward. What you're going to do is you're going to look at all the archives that are provided on the approved list. And once you've reviewed the archives, I want you to select one of those archives. And then in approximately 100 words, just tell me why you chose that archive. Why did you choose that particular collection? Why is it of interest to you? What kind of information do you already know about it? What kind of information do you want to know about it? These are guiding questions, right? Your reason for choosing your archive could be many. I just want you to tell me what those reasons are. So don't overthink it. Just tell me what your chosen archive is and why you chose it. Why are you interested in this archive and what do you want to take away from this? This is important. The archive you choose for this assignment will also be the archive that you work with for the second assignment, which is the archive evaluation. So you're going to summarize an archive and then you're going to evaluate that archive. So make sure you pick an archive that will sustain your interest for the next 7 or so weeks, okay? So pick an archive and stick with it. So make sure you are picking one of interest to you, okay? And that is due on September 5th, all right? 20 points, really easy. Just write to me in 100 words why you chose the archive, what archive you chose, and why. Now, this is an assignment you probably have never done before, right? Instead of doing a traditional essay, you're doing a slideshow presentation or a Prezi. If you go to D2L, under Content, you will find Example Assignments, another tab, and I have provided 5 examples of past students, okay? 2 students examples from the Boston Strong Archive, 2 student examples from the Contagion Archive, and then an example from the Hurricane Katrina Archive, all right? So these are slideshows. These are what past students have done. So you can look at what they've done and try to emulate what they're doing. Don't copy them, right? I want every presentation should be unique in its own way, right? Your presentation should reflect you. So just look to see what they did. Don't copy them, but use it as a guide, right? And why there are 2 examples for the Boston Strong and 2 for the Contagion is, well, again, they're all unique. The Boston Strong Archive example 1 is different from example 2. The example 1 focuses on things that example 2 does not focus on, and vice versa, right? So there are different ways to approach an archive, okay? There's no one way. Everyone has their unique vision, their unique approach. And I even pulled up one of the example archives. So here's one of the Boston Strong archives. It's got pictures and a lot of information in which they are going through, looking at the purpose. Why is this archive here? My computer is going to be a little slow. Talk a little bit about how the materials in the archive is arranged. Let's see, what's this slide? Here are the things that have been selected, and here are the things that are left out, okay? So this person is answering the questions that have been set forth in the assignment sheet. The who, what, when, where, why, how, okay? They're looking at the sponsors, like who is sponsoring this archive and why are they sponsoring it, okay? So each slide is essentially answering a question. What's this one? Featured collections. This archive has 2 different collections, right? The Boston Strong and then the teaching resources. How can we teach people about the Boston bombing, and then what is in it? What is in the collection, okay? So, oh man, I just messed that up. Whoops. Okay, well, that is what one of the slideshows look like. You look at all of them, use them as examples. They should be helpful. If you have any other questions about the assignment, do not hesitate to send me an email. Again, everything is online. Yeah, again, good luck. And I look forward to seeing what kind of projects you guys have chosen, what archives you are interested in. This is going to be fun. It's going to be different. It might be challenging at first, but it will be fun. All right.